But the news was just announced that WNBA TV ratings are down more than 50% since Caitlin Clark's injury. And it was also reported that the Indiana Fever television viewership is also down over 53%. Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA.
The WNBA just got a brutal wake-up call. Life without Caitlin Clark is basically Netflix with no Wi-Fi, unwatchable and borderline tragic. Playoff ratings are tanking faster than your phone battery when it's stuck on 1% at 2 a.m. Now the league is in full scramble mode, desperately trying to keep fans from dozing off. Did viewers really vanish into thin air, or did they just jump ship to binge pickleball highlights instead? One thing's for sure, this playoff drama is spicier than a reality TV reunion.
Today, is there any chance that the WNBA, that Kathy Engelbert saw some of the ratings that I'm about to show you now and said, hey, Indiana Fever, can you do us a favor? Can you do us a solid? Can you just tease a Caitlin Clark return, kind of boost these up a little bit? Can you just dangle a Caitlin Clark return in front of the fans' faces, try to boost these ratings up a little bit? There was one matchup that this league can consistently rely on to produce massive viewership numbers.
The WNBA hyped this season as a moment, the breakout year, the big leap, the proof it could finally stand shoulder to shoulder with the major leagues. Instead, it's looked more like one giant pratfall. The league tripped, face-planted straight into a vat of nacho cheese, and is now awkwardly trying to play it off like that was the plan all along.
A shocker. Imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when Uncle KC found out that the WNBA is struggling to maintain their ratings without Caitlin Clark. To make matters worse, and this is something I have definitely noticed in the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially since the All-Star game, the WNBA seems to be struggling to maintain interest.
Let's be real. This WNBA season has been a spectacular, slow-motion dumpster fire. If you came for the basketball, you got a mashup of star injuries, refs making calls like they're reading the game through foggy bifocals, and a commissioner who treats player health like an optional side quest. If you came for pure entertainment, you probably checked out the second Caitlin Clark, spent more time on the bench than on the floor, thanks to defenders treating her ankles like their community property, and she's some kind of crash test dummy in sneakers.
When I think about Caitlin Clark, the operative word that comes to my mind is gratitude. There's an incredible level of gratitude that should be accorded to this young lady with what she did for the sport.
How was the attendance for Team USA in the Olympics? What would it have been like if Caitlin Clark was playing on that team? Remember the first game? Look at this right here. National broadcast viewership. What are we talking about here? 1,000, what is that? 1.219? Is that the number? And the game afterwards got 485,000. So the Fever in their game against the Minnesota Lynx was 1.219 million.
You know it's rough when the biggest thrill of the season isn't a buzzer beater, but fans betting on whether the league will implode before the playoffs are over. Spoiler, it's still standing, but barely, held together by a single strip of duct tape labeled, "Please don't look too closely at this mess."
WNBA's black superstars should thank their lucky stars for the record ratings Caitlin Clark is detonating, even if new fans are mostly white fans. It doesn't matter what color eyeballs are. But the other day, I must admit, it hit me like Katie Bell Henderson telling me that's enough. I told myself it's not racist for me to like Caitlin.
And speaking of bad, let's talk officiating. The refs this season look like they were recruited straight out of mall food court during peak lunch hour. One still chewing on Sparrow pizza while debating a flagrant. Another seemed convinced they're calling a roller derby instead of basketball. Consistency? Somewhere between a magic 8-ball and a fortune cookie. One game, a full-on shove is nothing. Next game, someone sneezes too loudly and they're ejected. If refs had a stat line this year, it had read, turnovers, 0. Bad calls, every. Single. Possession.
The WNBA has a problem. And that problem is Caitlin Clark not playing in WNBA games. Now, what all does this affect? The ratings are plummeting. Guys, there's ratings for a couple of these games that are eye-poppingly.
Now, let's talk injuries. Because this season the WNBA looks less like a basketball league and more like an orthopedic surgeon's holiday shopping spree. Caitlin Clark has logged more hours rehabbing than actually playing, mostly because defenders act like she owes them back rent. Every trip to the rim feels like a new episode of How Hard Can We Hit Caitlin Before the Ref Blinks? Spoiler. Harder than you'd think. But Clark isn't the only casualty in this basketball apocalypse. The commissioner's office practically exhales in relief every time another star goes down. Great, one less headache to market. Sophie wasn't enough. So Angel Reese decided mid-season, you know what? I'm out. In most leagues, that'd be headline-level shocking. In the W, it feels more like a Yelp review of the league itself. Because let's be honest, if your commissioner can't run the show, your refs look like dropouts from clown school, and players are dropping faster than flies on a July afternoon, then yeah, why wouldn't someone bail? Reese probably figured Instagram was safer than suiting up for another game where she gets tackled like she's auditioning for the NFL.
That's not a trend that the WNBA is excited about. That's a trend that Kathy Engelbert would say, hey, Fever, hey, Lynn Dunn, hey, Kelly, hey, Amber, can you guys start dangling that Caitlin Clark return like you used to do? You know, before Caitlin Clark gave a statement and you guys were hands off. Can you guys, just string them along a little bit more? We want to get these ratings back up. We want to get these numbers back.
Here's the truth. None of this exists in a vacuum. The WNBA has spent years begging for respect, pleading for the spotlight, asking fans and media to treat it as more than an afterthought. But the league isn't exactly helping itself. The commissioner treats players' safety like it's some radical new experiment, as if protecting stars and enforcing rules is too much to ask. And for a moment, before Caitlin Clark's injury, it felt like things were turning. ESPN suddenly acted like it cared. SportsCenter highlights actually featured the W. Twitter was full of people pretending they understood a pick and roll. The hype was real. But the second Clark went down, ratings collapsed faster than Angel Reese's desire to finish the season. It's almost like the WNBA forgot the golden rule. If your entire marketing strategy revolves around one player, and your officiating strategy is let her get punched in the face, don't be surprised when fans vanish. Sure, some will say this is just bad luck, that injuries and missed calls are part of sports. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't bad luck. It's bad leadership. Right now, the commissioner looks less like a league executive and more like a substitute teacher who's completely lost control of the classroom. Instead of solving problems, the league shrugs them off. Star players drop? No big deal. Refs make games borderline unwatchable? Fans will stick around, right? Spoiler alert, they didn't.
At Indiana against the Chicago Sky, right after that game, they opened an investigation once again into the fans where they found nothing, but the damage had already been done at that point. If some of these things happen just one time here and there, or there's one certain media personality who's just always saying these kind of things, then whatever. I feel like fans as a whole can be like, okay, whatever, this person is just a hater. But this is something that has happened over and over and over again. And over time, it starts chipping away at how much you're going to actually care and want to support an organization if they continue to do things like.
And the players who are still standing, they're stuck in games that look less like basketball and more like some mashup of rugby and pro wrestling. Half the time you don't know if you're watching the playoffs or WWE SummerSlam, just waiting for someone to pull out a steel chair. Meanwhile, the commissioner keeps giving interviews about growth and momentum. Sure, just like I grow taller every time I put on heels. Calling this season growth is like calling a house fire a bold new lighting design. It's not growth. It's delusion. These women are giving everything they have while the system around them collapses. They don't deserve refs who blow whistles like they're at a toddler's birthday party. They don't deserve leadership that treats their health like an optional side quest. And they definitely don't deserve a league that only markets them when it's convenient and disappears the second things get tough. Yet here we are. The WNBA limping toward the finish line, ratings tanking, stars on the injury list, and fans left wondering if the league can even survive another year like this. If this was supposed to be the season of growth, then congratulations. It grew into the biggest disaster imaginable.
This Caitlin Clark thing, man. I mean, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing what you guys have done. And then people are catching on to your tactics. You got the people on Twitter catching on to your tactics. Like, look at this right here. Look at this right here. They said ESPN didn't want to show the ratings were down from WNBA All-Star Game because Caitlin Clark did.
Maybe next year, the commissioner will finally care about player safety. Maybe referees will figure out what an actual foul looks like. Maybe stars like Caitlin Clark will actually get through a season without being tackled into early retirement. But until then, the WNBA is teetering on the edge, and not because fans don't care, but because leadership doesn't. This was supposed to be the year. Sold out arenas, lines around the block like it was the launch of the new iPhone. Instead, the reality has been seas of empty seats echoing louder than the refs' whistles. Popcorn vendors are sighing into the void, begging someone to buy a hot dog. Ticket sales look less like a thriving league and more like the clearance rack at a department store that's going out of business. The league keeps insisting they're expanding the fan base, while fans are busy expanding their Netflix queues instead of watching. Because without Clark pulling in viewers, without Cunningham on the floor, and without re-stirring up drama, ticket sales collapse faster than a Jenga tower in an earthquake. And the funniest part? The spin. Social media posts still roll out like nothing's wrong. Asterisk, another exciting night of WNBA action. Asterisk, meanwhile, the comments are comedy club. Fans asking, asterisk, exciting where exactly? In a parallel universe. Asterisk, and posting tumbleweed memes to match the empty arenas. When your own marketing becomes a setup for fan punchlines, that's not hype, it's a cry for help.